this series of trials. Again, another book with trials. It gets a little bit dark. I can't even say anything else about it. Just read it. Where has this book been all my life? Hey guys, I'm Kristen. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome for the very first time. If this is your first time here, thank you for watching. Today is Bookmas Day 5. Today I'm going to share with you my favorite books to get on Kindle Unlimited. So get comfy, get cozy, and let's get Christmassy for Bookmas. So I know that a lot of people may have bought themselves a Kindle for the very first time with Black Friday sales, or you might be asking for one for Christmas from Santa Claus or for another winter holiday, or you just might have recently subscribed to Kindle Unlimited for the very first time. Whichever it is, I have been seeing a lot of posts recently online from people asking for Kindle Unlimited recommendations, and I get it. Kindle Unlimited is not set up in a super easy way to browse. It's a little bit hard to find which books are available on Kindle Unlimited sometimes. So I thought today I would share with you my favorite books that I have read on Kindle Unlimited. Hopefully I can help you out a little bit, let you know what there is so that you can get the most out of your Kindle Unlimited subscription. Oh, also by the way, just so you know, this is a Kindle Paperwhite. I think it's like the newest generation of the Kindle Paperwhite. It is not a color soft, so my screen is in black and white. We are not seeing in color, but just to let you know, for all the books that I read them on my trusty little Kindle Paperwhite here. I went back through all the books I have ever borrowed through Kindle Unlimited since I started my subscription, and I've picked the books that I liked the best to share with you. So I've got lots of fantasy books, thrillers, cozy mysteries, a little bit of science fiction, and a little bit of romance. And I am definitely not sponsored in any way by Amazon or Kindle. I just really like having a Kindle Unlimited subscription and talking about books with you guys. Okay, so the first book is a very popular book that you have most likely heard of if you like fantasy, and that is Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. In fact, the entire Kindred's Curse series so far is on Kindle Unlimited. So if you like fantasy books and you've been seeing a lot about this book and just haven't picked it up yet, it is available on Kindle Unlimited, and I highly recommend that you do because this series was so good. Spark of the Everflame follows the main character named Diem, who thinks she is just this normal everyday girl, and things are happening. Her mother goes missing. She ends up kind of taking over her mother's job working at the palace. She meets the heir to the king. She learns a really important and dangerous secret about herself. It would definitely be categorized as romantasy, so if that's your thing, I highly recommend it. However, I will say that there's a lot of characterization and action and world building and plot. If you haven't read that yet and you are a fantasy reader, you should 100% check it out. So next on the list is a mystery series, and it is called Stillhouse Lake. That's the name of book one and the name of the whole series, and that was written by Rachel Kane. Rachel Kane has also written some fantasy science fiction type books as well, so her name might be on your radar due to that. I've only read the first two books in this series, but they're all available on Kindle Unlimited. So the premise for this one is our main character is Gwen. The story starts by letting us know that, like, in the past, her husband was discovered to be this serial killer, and so he was arrested and is now in jail, and she is trying to kind of put the pieces of her life back together. So she moves her kids out to this peaceful place called Stillhouse Lake, where she's kind of trying to like turn over a new leaf and start a new life where like nobody will know who she and her family are. But a body turns up in the lake, and she starts being harassed by somebody who is either like a copycat of her husband or like a super fan of her husband, so she has to deal with that. And I would definitely say it's more mystery than thriller, although you could maybe categorize it as a mystery thriller. The next one is another fantasy. This one is The Trial of the Sun Queen by Nisha J. Tooley, and this is book one in the Artifacts of Oranos, Oranos series, and these are all available on Kindle Unlimited. And if you're a fantasy reader, this is, again, extremely popular. In this one, we follow our main character named Lore. She is in prison with her brother and sister at the beginning of the book, and then she is mysteriously released from prison and brought to compete with 10 women for the heart of the Sun King. And so there's a series of trials, there's people eliminated, there's danger, there's romance, there's multiple love interest possibilities. There's a lot going on in this one. If you like the selection, but with more danger and more fantasy aspects. Also, lore is sassy and grouchy, so if you prefer that kind of heroine, you would probably like Trial of the Sun Queen, and highly recommend. The next is another fantasy, but this one's YA. This is Heartless Hunter, the first in the Crimson Moth duology by Kristen Ciccarelli. I'm not really sure how to say that last name. However, this is a duology, so really short series, and the second one has already come out, so I definitely recommend checking this out if you like fantasy or YA fantasy. I will say that even for a YA fantasy, it didn't actually really feel super duper YA. This book follows our main character named Rune. She is living a double life. She is secretly the Crimson Knight. Not the Crimson Knight. She doubles as the Crimson Moth by night, and she's kind of like a vigilante justice type figure, and by day she's just a normal everyday girl. And then we have Gideon, who is the guy who is tasked with finding the Crimson Moth, who actually meets Rune not knowing who she is, and of course they kind of have a little bit of a romance going on, but they're on opposite sides. It's a little bit enemies to lovers for sure. Yeah, I highly recommend this one. I really enjoyed it. The next mystery series I have for you is called My Sister's Grave. This is the first book in the Tracy Crosswhite series by Robert Dugoni. Tracy Crosswhite is a police officer, and this takes place in Seattle, which is one of the reasons I really liked it. My husband and I vacationed in Seattle once, and we're just like so in love with that whole area. She is a detective for Seattle PD, and her sister went missing years and years and years and years ago, and that's why she became a police officer. And I guess her sister, I'm trying to remember because it's been so long since I read this first book, her sister's remains are finally found, and so most of the book is kind of her investigating what really happened with her sister. The series goes on and becomes more of like a traditional mystery / police procedural, and sometimes I'm just really in the mood to read something like that. I read so much fantasy. Sometimes I just want to sit down and read like, here's a crime, and I know by the end of this book it's going to be solved. But if you like that type of story, I definitely recommend this series because I've really enjoyed it so far. Another mystery / thriller that you've probably never heard of, or maybe you have, and if you have, good for you. But this one isn't super popular. The first book is called Find Me by Anne Fraser, and it's book one in the Inland Empire series. And I want to say, I thought it was like a duology or a trilogy, but maybe not, I can't remember. I really enjoyed this book, and this was a brand new to me author, never heard of this before. I have no idea why I picked this one, but I was so glad I did. The premise for this one is really interesting and was unique to me. I've never read this exact premise before. So in San Bernardino, California, this convicted serial killer who's been in jail has finally like made an agreement with police that, fine, I will show you where I've buried the bodies, or something along those lines. It's been a while since I read this one. And he makes this deal with this police detective with the caveat that he'll only do it if this FBI profiler comes along with them. And this FBI profiler, she is actually like his daughter, and of course they're very estranged because of, you know, what he is. And so they all pile into this vehicle and go to be taken to where the bodies are buried, type of thing. And that's how the book starts, and it just kind of goes all over the place. I really enjoyed this one, and it's not one that I see put on a lot of lists. It's not one with like the absolute best cover. It's not one with like this grabbing title. It's not an author I had heard of before. I just took a chance on it and I really liked it. So if you're into the premise I just told you, you should pick it up on Kindle Unlimited and read it for yourself and see what you think. Okay, so I'm gonna throw a different kind of fantasy book into the mix right now. This one is actually gonna be a fantasy graphic novel. Now keep in mind that I am actually reading on a Kindle Paperwhite. It's not in color, and I still really enjoyed reading a graphic novel. I'm also not a really big graphic novel person. I read maybe like one graphic novel a year, maybe two. Okay, and it is called The Tea Dragon Society by Kay O'Neill. I don't remember where I stumbled across this book. Every once in a while I get like an itch to read a graphic novel, and I don't know where, I can't remember where I even heard of this, but this is so stinking cute. It is a cozy fantasy graphic novel, maybe even like a YA graphic novel, I don't know, but it is so just like a sweet heartwarming, cozy, quick read. So the main character is named Greta, and she is the apprentice to a blacksmith, but she ends up getting all like entangled in the world of this thing called tea dragons, which is such a cute concept. It's these like small dragons, and they have different like ways that they're useful or have abilities, and it's just so sweet and charming. If you like this type of thing, check it out. All right, let's talk about another very popular read, which you may not have realized was on Kindle Unlimited. And that is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. That's the first book in the Wicked Games duology. The second book, Enchantra, is also out as well on Kindle Unlimited. So if you like books about like a series of challenges or trials that our main character has to compete in, this is definitely a book for you. Enchantra is about the main character named Ophelia. Her sister has gone missing. She decides to go into this game thing that happens once every year called Phantasma. It's a little bit Caraval-esque. If you like Caraval, you might really like this. This is not YA, this is adult. It does have spice in it, so like, and it feels more adult, so that was nice. I like that part better. She enters into this. This is like a deadly game. Like, there are parts of this book where it gets a little bit dark. It gets a little almost like horror-y. There's also like on-page romance, and she makes a deal with this demon-y type guy named Blackwell that she'll give up like so many years of her life if he helps her in the trials, because she wants to find her sister. If this is your thing, check it out on Kindle Unlimited. And let's just go right into another fantasy series. The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owens. That is the first book in a series. The Things Gods Break is book 2. That literally like just came out like a month or two ago. And then the third and final book in the trilogy is coming out next year, and it just got released like with the cover art. This is a Greek mythology book. It's an adult fantasy book. It's fantastic. It is set in contemporary times with the main character named Lyra. She ends up in this games thing that the Greek gods play. So every like year or every so many years, the gods play a game where they each choose a mortal like to represent them in this series of trials. Again, I'm seeing a pattern here. I've read a lot of Kindle Unlimited books about like trials. And I do actually kind of like that kind of story, so that doesn't really surprise me. But this book I loved. It is definitely, I don't know if I'd say romantasy. It's set in contemporary times. It's set in modern, like current present day times. But a lot of the story takes place like in the world of the gods, outside of like the normal city. But then they also come back to the normal city, so you kind of get like both sides of it. You kind of get like a little bit of a high fantasy setting as well as like a present day city setting. And you also have a fantastic romance between the main character and Hades. It is slow burn. So deliciously slow burn. Highly recommend this one. It was one of my favorite reads of this past year, and one of my goals is to read the second book like as soon as possible. So really, if you like reading books about mythology, and you like reading retellings with Hades that are not about his romance with Hades and Persephone, by the way, check this one out. All right, the next book is an extremely popular book that you have almost definitely heard of, but maybe you didn't know it was available on Kindle Unlimited. That is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. Now, if you are groaning right now, feel free to skip this part of the video. This book is so overly popular, and now there's a movie coming out. I get it. I know that Frida McFadden writes like a ton of books. However, this was the very first book that I read by her, and I loved this book. It had plot twists that I did not in any way, shape, or form see coming. This one really got me. Like, as you're reading the book, you think you might know what's going on, but you are probably wrong. So if you were thinking about checking out the book before the movie comes out and didn't realize it was available on Kindle Unlimited, now you do. Okay, the next book is a horror. I forgot to say at the beginning, I had one book on this list that was a horror book. That is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. Now, this is a novella. It's on the longer novella end, but it's definitely a novella. It's under 300 pages. And it is a trilogy, and all 3 books are available on Kindle Unlimited. And I will say that T. Kingfisher is kind of a new author to me. I've only read 2 of their books, and I read them both like for Halloween, October-ish season, and I loved them. And Not every book they wrote is available on Kindle Unlimited, but a lot of them are. So I definitely recommend checking out like any T. Kingfisher book. There are several that are novellas, there are full-length novels, there are fantasy horrors, there are fantasy. It's all over the place, but so far I've been really impressed by everything I've read. I really loved What Moves the Dead. It's, like I said, the first in a trilogy of novellas that all follow our same main character. And this one is a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. So I read this one in October as just part of my like horror spooky reads, and I really enjoyed it. I actually read another book called The Twisted Ones, which I liked a little bit more. I don't think that one is on Kindle Unlimited, but like I said, so many of T. Kingfisher's books are available on Kindle Unlimited that if that's an author that's been kind of in your sphere but you haven't read yet, I would definitely just pick one that sounds good to you and check it out. This is my most recent book that I read on Kindle Unlimited. The Book of Azrael, which is book 1 in the Gods and Monsters series by Amber V. Nicole, which is, where has this book been all my life? I loved this book. I can't wait to read the rest of the series. I have some things that I really wanted to read in December to finish off 2025, so I am really like holding myself back from reading the rest of the books in the series, but in January I plan to do a binge read of the other ones, and then the final book, book 5, will come out sometime in 2026. But this is a fantastic fantasy series that follows a main character named Diana and a male main character named Liam, and it is so good. It is, I would definitely say it's romantic-y, but there was just so much like action, there's violence, there's world building, there's characterization, there's shocks and like plot twists, and like our main female character Diana, she's the bad guy and she works for the bad side and she's extremely powerful and she kicks a lot of ass. Normally it's good guy ass though, unfortunately. And Liam is like a king of a whole planet. Actually just did a review of the Book of Azrael in another Bookmas video, so you should go check that out if you haven't read this yet and you were thinking about reading it. But so good, and all of the books in the series are available on Kindle Unlimited, so treat yourself and read the Gods and Monsters series. Okay, the next book is my one and only sci-fi on this list. It is Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. S.A. Barnes actually has a couple of books that are science fiction that are available on Kindle Unlimited. This is one that was not necessarily a 5-star read for me. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. I wasn't obsessed with it. I'm recommending it because I did want to throw a science fiction at you if that's your thing, and also because I think other people might enjoy this a little bit more than me. This book has been compared to the movie Event Horizon, and if you are a big fan of the movie Event Horizon, which is like a 90s or early 2000s like sci-fi horror book, or sci-fi horror movie, this is kind of along those lines. Our main character and her crew, they are out in space on their ship. They discover this luxury liner that has been missing forever. Think like if the Titanic went missing and nobody knew what happened to it, and then somebody just like discovered it out in the ocean, except this is outer space because it's sci-fi. And so they board it to kind of figure out like, oh, this is gonna be, first of all, a mystery solved and we're gonna get tons of credit for this. Plus we're gonna get a lot of money for this. So her and her crew board, and all kinds of science fiction horror ensues. So I enjoyed the book. Like I said, I didn't love the book, but S.A. Barnes has some other sci-fi on Kindle Unlimited that I also kind of wanted to check out as well. So I also wanted to kind of drop that in there in case you are into sci-fi. That is an author you might want to check out on Kindle Unlimited. Let's talk about one of my all-time favorite series, which I discovered last year at almost this exact time of year. In fact, the last books I read last year were the first couple of books in this series, and the first books I read of 2025 were the last books of this series. This series is The Plated Prisoner by Raven Kennedy, and book 1 is called Gild. The entire series is complete with 6 books, and they are all available on Kindle Unlimited for your reading pleasure and torture. But it was such a fantastic series, especially the first 3 books in the series. Like, I enjoyed all 6, but the first 3 books in the series were amazing. There were surprises that, again, I did not see coming. This is a fantasy series, very romantasy-like. When you read the first book, you're gonna be like, what? Romantasy? With who? What? I get it. Stick with it. If you like the first book at all, continue reading. This is a really unusual setup for a series in that book 1, literally like the whole book, is like introducing your main character, Arin. She is plated in gold. Head to toe, clothes, skin, hair. She is plated in gold. She's covered in it. And Midas, this is a King Midas retelling, by the way. It's like an alternate version King Midas retelling. She is his consort, and he keeps her in like this cage, literally, this golden cage that her room is set up in so that nobody can touch her because she's so special. Now that I've read all 6 books in the series, it seems crazy to talk about the synopsis for book 1 because so much changes as the series goes on. And book 1, you're gonna be like, what is happening? Why does everyone love this? Just stick with it. I promise you. I promise you. I can't even say anything else about it. Just read it. They're all on Kindle Unlimited. Just do it. Okay, next is The Coven by Harper L. Woods. This is book 1 in Coven of Bones. This one is a fantasy romance, dark academia, maybe even a dark romance a little teeny bit. Yeah, this one was a different read for me. She goes to this university where she is not like feared or persecuted for being a witch. She has this thing going on with the headmaster. She's also trying to solve this mystery at the same time, but she has this like kind of dark romance situation going on with him. So if you like dark romance and you like fantasy and you like dark academia, this might be your cup of tea. This is another one that I liked but didn't love, but I still wanted to recommend it because it was kind of the only read I read like this on my Kindle Unlimited specifically. So I just wanted to let you know that this type of book is out there. Okay, completely switching genre gears here. We're gonna go to a cozy mystery series. Murder in the Scottish Highlands is the name of the first book in this series. This is the Ally McKinley mystery series by D. McDonald, and D. McDonald has other books that are also available on Kindle Unlimited as well. I don't know why I picked this up. Again, it was just like a random find for me. It had good reviews and it was set in the Scottish Highlands, obviously from the title. Our main character is a retiree whose husband has died, not extremely recently, but she has fully adult children and she's fully retired and she's a single widower, and she decides to live her dream, and she moves from the city in Scotland to the Scottish Highlands. She's basically out in the country. There's moors, there's ocean waves. I just loved picturing everything in this book while I was reading, first of all. Second of all, this is also a murder mystery, 100% mystery, not a thriller. She has decided to open a bed and breakfast, and while she's working on getting the bed and breakfast started, a murder pops up that somehow she takes it upon herself to have to solve. In her job before she was retired, she used to work for a television channel as a researcher, and in the book, like, she was a researcher for all different kinds of TV shows, and so she's good at like researching and interviewing and finding things out, and so she's kind of like putting those skills to use to solve these mysteries. There are 4 books. I think the 4th book just came out in the last couple of months, but I read the first 3 and they're just really fun, quick, cozy mystery reads. So if the synopsis I just gave you for the first book sounds like your vibe, I would definitely check these books out. Oh guys, we're getting down to like the last 3 or 4 books on this list. Okay, the next book is a standalone mystery thriller by Sarah Pekkanen called House of Glass. So the premise for House of Glass is our main character is a lawyer, and she works like as a victim's lawyer, and she is hired to take on this case where she will be like the advocate lawyer for a 9-year-old. This 9-year-old, her nanny died. She fell or was pushed out a glass window, and she has died, and the little girl hasn't spoken since then, and the parents have decided to now get divorced, and she needs an advocate to kind of investigate the situation, decide whether she should go live with the father or the mother. The problem is that nobody has been convicted of killing the nanny because the nanny's death was ruled either like suicide or accidental, and so one of the jobs this lawyer has is figuring out, could one of these two people potentially be a murderer, or was this a suicide or an accidental death after all? That's the setup for the story, and it's told from her point of view. I can't remember her name right now, our main character. So I really did enjoy this one. The next book is Burning Daylight by Emily McIntyre, and this book is the first in a brand new series. I will say that Emily McIntyre has other books and series on Kindle Unlimited as well. She's an extremely popular contemporary romance and dark romance author, so if you like to read romance books, you should definitely check her out. This was my first book by her. However, I loved it. I loved Burning Daylight so much. It is a reimagining of Romeo and Juliet. It's set in modern times, and it doesn't follow like the exact Romeo and Juliet story, but there are so many elements that are from the Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. And this series is going to follow like several different couples, I guess, from book to book to book, that are all from like romantic tragedies, except giving them their happy ending. So I'm really excited with all the characters that we met in book one. I'm super excited to see like what couple is being focused on in book two, which we don't know yet. So if you like Emily McIntyre or you like to read romance books, I definitely recommend this one, and now's a good time to read it because we're going to get the announcement for book two and what couple the book two is going to focus on pretty soon. Okay, next is Direbound by Sable Sorensen. This is book one in the Wolves of Ruin series, and you may have heard about Direbound and not realize that it was actually a Kindle Unlimited book that you can read for free right now if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, because that's what happened to me. I have actually done like a full video review of Direbound, so if you haven't read it yet and you're on the fence, you can go back a couple of videos and find that video and watch that as well. I really enjoyed this one. This one is a world where like their military has this special elite group that bonds with a dire wolf, which are enormous wolves, and they make like a mental telepathic bond with them. They ride them during battle. They learn how to do battle like as one with their wolf and kind of almost like read each other's minds and stuff. And it is really a good story that totally snuck up on me. I didn't even know it existed. It's definitely a romantasy, and there are multiple possibilities for love interests as you're reading, like who you're rooting for might change, but I really enjoyed the story a lot. Book two will come out sometime in 2026, so now's a good time to read Direbound if you haven't read it yet. Last one. This is a fantasy book. This is an adult fantasy, maybe even romantasy series that I love. Book one is called Blood and Steel, and this is in the Legends of Thesmar series by Helen Schaurer. I'm not really sure how to say her last name, I'm sorry. But fantastic series, and there's like now like a spinoff as well that you definitely want to read this first before that. I have read the first three. I haven't read the final book in the original series, so I can't read the spinoff yet, which is so stressful, but it's definitely going to be a goal for me for next year is to finish the series so I can read the spinoffs. So our main female character here is named Althea. It has been foretold that she is going to die like at this certain time or when she's this certain age, and she has decided to make it like her life's goal to become a warrior. In the world that she lives in, women are forbidden from wielding blades. Like they cannot pick up a dagger, a sword, a knife. There was this whole like legend foretold prophecy type of thing, and they really adhere by that in this world. And so because of that, women are not allowed to train as warriors, but she wants to go through this series of trials. Again, another book with trials. Wow, I really like reading books like that. She has to go through this series of trials to become a guardian, and then from that she can go on to be this like legendary level guardian, maybe, if she makes it through that training. Our male main love interest, our male main character, I should say, his name is Wilder Hawthorne, and he's big, and he's brooding, and he's a warrior extraordinaire, and he's legendary, and he's basically the male version of everything Theo wants to be. It's not an enemies to lovers, it's kind of like a we don't like each other, like a reluctant friends to lovers story? I don't know. Anyways, I really love these books. And so I highly recommend them. I won't say I saved the best for last, but I will say I saved one of the best. That was 20 books on Kindle Unlimited. I know most of them were a lot of romantasy and mystery thriller, but we did have several genres in there. And so hopefully I have given you some book suggestions, either things that you have been thinking about reading that I have helped you make your mind up, or maybe some books that you've never heard of before, which is very exciting. If you enjoyed watching today's Bookmas Day 5 video, make sure you give the video a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more of my Bookmas videos for the rest of the month of December. Thank you guys as always so much for watching. Enjoy reading, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.